Okay, so I reviewed the paper Nudged and Obesity Part 1, Minor Changes in Accessibility, Decreased Food Intake. So it's part 1 of a two-part paper on behavioral economic nudges as obesity interventions. It was published by Paul Rozin from the University of Pennsylvania and his colleagues in June 2011 in the Journal of Judgement and Decision Making. So first, what is behavioral economics? So to the left we have Superman. That's kind of a classic economic approach. They assume that people are always rational and always maximizing their utility. On the right is the behavioral economic approach. People are irrational sometimes. They make decisions because of emotions, because of they felt like it, well, just because. And that's kind of a hybrid discipline of psychology and economics. Homer Simpson is more of an appropriate case study. And here he is in his natural habitat, slumped over in his lazy boy. He's overweight, he's balding, and he sure likes beer. So is more information always the answer? Here's Homer in a nice clip for you.
I've got candy, skip to my loo, my insulin will spike, that's what it's gonna do. I'm gonna buy me some diabetic shoes, skip to my loo, my... What the... Go! Hello, 911. I need a helicopter rescue and some cold milk.
So we can learn a lot from Homer here. First of all, how does he fall so much without getting any noticeable injuries? One will never know that answer. But he is an informed consumer. He knows that insulin affects diabetes. He's overweight. He's a typical American. So like 67% of Americans, he's overweight. And more importantly, when he falls down the cliff, he loses accessibility to his bag of candy. So it leads him really nicely to our study question, and that's what, if any, are the effects of small environmental changes to food proximity and accessibility on food serving at a salad bar? So why is this question important? There are salad bars everywhere. So in the top right, the college dining hall, First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative has pledged to put salad bars in our school lunch programs, and even supermarkets now have salad bars. So the bottom is a picture of Whole Foods, and they charge a whopping $7.99 per pound for salad. So there's a lot of school lunch programs that have them, a lot of salad bars everywhere. And this study provides insights on how to better micro-design salad bars to promote healthful food intake. So it's a low-cost framework and unnoticed by consumers, another benefit of the study. So why is this approach unique? First of all, environmental factors are often overlooked. When we think nutrition policy, we think we need to educate people, promote conscious decision making like most diets do, or reduce choice, so banning foods, banning fried foods, banning soft drinks, campaigning against fructose. But what this approach does and other behavioral economic approaches shows that you can maintain choice set, but use the environment and environmental manipulations in a low or no-cost way to promote positive food intake. And we do know a lot about behavioral economics, but we also know that the public has a low awareness of these environmental cues that affect eating, and even knowing might not override the effect. So this is a 4-part study. Study 1 of 4 parts looked at the location of 8 foods placed on a salad bar to be in either a middle position or an edge position. The middle position was harder to reach. It was about 10 inches further away. And this is with the sneeze guard and the normal salad bar hygiene setup. So it took place over the course of 11 weeks. And the results after all the analysis show that on average, people reduced their intake by 13.4%. If you look at the graph, this is true for broccoli, for shredded cheese, for chicken, which people sure do eat a lot of. For cucumbers, for hard-boiled eggs, all of them share this effect. So study 2 looked at a flaw of the first part of the study, was that the middle trays in study 1 were larger than the external trays, the edge trays. So study 2 looked at the location of 4 foods in the same salad bar in either one large tray or 2 smaller trays. So the 2 smaller trays added together equaled the 1 large tray. And the results after 11 weeks found that presenting an ingredient in 2 trays as opposed to 1 tray reduced intake by an average of 1.33%. I mean, so not really a lot, but there is some really, really small effect here. So study 3 was a little bit different. It was the last of the 4 parts that focused specifically on salad bar food placement, but it looked at 8 foods and whether they were in the middle position or either edge position. So that's showed in the diagram, and this one took course over 6 months, so really, really long study, a lot of data, a lot of analysis. So after 6 months, they analyzed all the data and found that on average, people reduced their intake by 8.9% when the ingredient was placed in the middle position, so the further to reach one. So study 4 is a little bit different. They want to test the hypothesis that the ease of a utensil has an impact on the amount of food served. So they had either a tongue, which was harder to use and harder to scoop more with, or a spoon, which is a standard for salad bars. And this one took course over 11 weeks. They looked at 4 foods, so tomatoes, artichokes, mandarin oranges, and cheddar cheese. And the results were that the tongue condition in every single food group had lower consumption rates. So when it's harder to get to, people will just take less of it. So this is Professor Rozin. He's the lead author on this study, and his conclusion was that there's a small but consistent relationship between accessibility and food intake. Environmental nudges are an excellent way to reduce energy intake. Why? They're revenue neutral, easily implemented, and a natural partnership opportunity between public health aims and vendor aims. So let's look a little bit deeper into the study. We'll criticize it, the strengths and weaknesses. So the strengths are this is a field study. It wasn't done in a lab. It wasn't done, on a computer. It was done at University of Pennsylvania's cafeterias with real people who were eating real lunches. The studies all took place over the course of multiple months. So the shortest was 11 weeks. The longest was 6 months. They had a large sample size. I mean, these were the people that were just going in to get their food. So they had a lot of people, didn't have to recruit people at all. And it was easily reproducible for other researchers in the future. So on the weaknesses, there's no measure of actual intake. So they assume that food served is a proxy for food intake. And other research shows that this is normally true. But we have no way of knowing if the intervention actually impacted intake once the participants and the customers left the actual salad bar. We also only have a single day measure per data point. So if someone went to the salad bar every single day for the course of 6 months, after 6 months did the effect wear away? We're not really sure from this study. So there's a need for longer term studies of environmental nudges on body weight. They're really hard to do, they're probably really expensive, so we'll wait for other researchers to kind of show that. There's also in this study no measurement of subject BMI or body weight, height, any of that. So we don't know, does this impact obese people more, underweight people more, overweight people more? Is it equal across all body weights? We're not sure at all. And most importantly, there's no measure of total meal calories. So if you serve less salad, do you actually buy more French fries? Do you drink more soda? Do you buy an extra cookie? We're not sure. And there's no measure of customer satisfaction. So that's what the vendors really care about. Do our customers notice the difference? And is it bad or good? We're not sure from here, but a future study could be designed to test that. So what was believed before the study? This is Edward Tolman. He was a very serious guy. And he had the law of least effort. So he's a behavioral psychologist. And in the 1930s, he said that people will always tend to occur, or behaviors at least, will tend to occur with a minimum expenditure of physical energy. So he published a scientific paper saying that people are lazy. Next, we had Schachter, who was more of an obesity specialist than another psychologist. And his theory of obesity says that obese individuals would reduce intake more than normal weight individuals as effort to obtain the food increased. So this fits more in with what our hypotheses might be for a future study. And it takes another step on Tolman's law of least effort. But before this, we didn't know much about salad bars. But what we did know is that the environment plays a major role in the rapid rise of obesity. And this is still a minority belief within the discipline, but is supported by such researchers as Hill and Peters, Brownell, Rolls, Levitsky, Wansink, Jiang, and Nessel. So unfortunately, this was just published in June 2011, so there's no studies confirming the findings yet. But there are definitely opportunities. The study is very easy to reproduce and could easily be be published, again, confirming the findings or disproving them if that's the case. So how has the field advanced because of this? It's an additional support piece for the environmental theory of obesity, again, not mentioned as much as the biological, which has more opportunities for pharmacological intervention, or genetics, which is much harder to intervene on, but still supported by a number of researchers in the field. This study supports nudges as a viable obesity intervention, so behavioral economics approach as opposed to, say, nutrition education. It's easily implementable at little or no cost to the service providers or the food service units, and it continues to add momentum for an academic paradigm change towards accepting behavioral economics as a framework of food behavior as opposed to more of a fringe as it is now. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I look forward to reading your papers or watching your videos.